Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I've been reading some articles on the real estate market, and a lot of these big-time real estate companies, they're very optimistic about where house prices are going to go. And I guess the main argument that they have is that we are not sitting in the same situation that we were in during the Great Financial Crisis, where house prices dropped like 27% nationwide. They use the argument that really houses have only fallen on a national scale just once since the Great Depression, and that was the Great Financial Crisis. And they were saying that back then it was more due to a subprime mortgage situation that drug the market down, drug the house prices down. And that was due to a lot of people who were able to get loans for houses that simply couldn't afford them. They were buying too big of a house and they just could not afford these things. And when we had a downturn in the market, everything just kind of crashed and everybody got foreclosed on and all that stuff. Right now, we're sitting in a situation that's keeping the house prices elevated due to the lack of inventory out there, that there's not a whole lot of houses to sell. And that was one of the arguments that a lot of people are using, is that because of this lack of inventory out there, that's going to keep the prices stable. That's going to keep them from falling. Which it does make a lot of sense, because you got to think of supply and demand. But here's something that I always think about. Anytime you ever hear record number, if you ever hear somebody say we're at record numbers for something, that means that it's going to peak out and it's going to start turning the other way. Just like, the unemployment. The best jobs market since the 60s or whatever it was. Well, now we're like in one of the worst unemployment situations that we have experienced since the Great Depression. All the jobs that were created since the Great Financial Crisis have been wiped out, gone. Or I wouldn't say they're gone, but has gone into unemployment. That's how many people are not working. And so anytime you ever hear that there is a record amount of anything, just think that number is going to change around. So right now, there is a record low level of houses for sale. And that's going to keep the prices stable. Well, that's not going to last forever. At some point, there's going to become more houses on the market for sale. And the availability for people to buy those houses is going to diminish. Because you think about it, it is going to be very difficult for somebody to get a loan if they do not have a job history. And if they've been unemployed for even a month or two, and they go to try and apply for a house loan, most likely they're going to have trouble getting that loan. Most people who go to get a loan have to show a viable job history, something that has some length to it. The people who are issuing those loans want to know that they are going to get paid for the loan, for the mortgage. Already we're seeing a lot of need for higher credit ratings, bigger down payments. These are things that are going to make it difficult for people to buy houses. So if you are sitting in that situation and all of a sudden more inventory starts coming onto the market, those houses are going to have trouble selling. And the only way to sell them is to start bringing the prices down to meet the capabilities of the buyer. Now think about this. Right now we are in a lot of situations with these mortgages that people have asked for forbearance, meaning that they're not going into foreclosure, meaning that they are not, leaving their homes or getting evicted or whatever it is that, comes with the forbearance. But that's going to end at some point. A record amount of people have not been making their payments. And at some point, we are going to come to a cliff where those things are going to come due, that people are either going to have to refinance their houses or come up with the back payments that they haven't made, or something is going to have to take place at that point. And I have a feeling that if this economy has not recovered back to where it was, which doesn't seem very likely since we're doing partial openings, but if we do not recover back to where we were, then those people are probably not going to be able to make those payments. And there is going to be no other choice but to get foreclosed on, or to try and sell your house, to try and do whatever you can to make it get by. And you think about how many people have bought second homes. They purchase these second homes and they probably won't need them. And since the HELOC, the home equity line of credit, has pretty much been postponed from all these major banks out there who are not issuing out HELOC mortgages anymore, or HELOC loans, those people are going to need to come up with some liquidity somehow. And since they can't use their house as an ATM, what are they going to do to get the liquidity? They're going to have to sell it. So there's going to be, at some point, a lot of homes coming onto the market. And there's not going to be a lot of buyers. And that's going to drive down house prices. So even though we're not going into the subprime mortgage crisis thing that really affected the great financial crisis, which really brought down the houses, we are coming into yet another crisis. It's just being delayed. Yeah. I mean, how many people out there are using their stimulus check to make their mortgage payment or their rent payment? How many people who rent homes are renting it from people who purchased that home on credit? They don't actually own that house outright. The landlords, they purchased it, and they are making a payment on that house themselves. So at some point here, when all this stimulus has finally run its course, and it's time to pay, and the people aren't paying, that's when we're going to start really running into the major housing crisis. That's where we're going to start seeing prices of houses come down. As people start getting foreclosed on, as people are looking to sell their second homes to get out of that, or because they need the liquidity, they just need the money, and they can't take out that loan. How many people have purchased homes intending on using it as like an Airbnb rental? And people aren't traveling right now. Think about how many homes out there were just flipping. People were buying these homes, sitting on them for a couple of months, and then selling them for a profit. Or maybe just, throwing a coat of paint on it and then trying to sell it for a profit. How many houses were sitting empty that whole time that now are not selling? These things are going to go onto the market at some point. Record low inventory is going to be followed by a record high inventory. I don't know about record high, but it's going to be followed by, a major increase in the amount of houses that are going to be for sale. Or at least go onto the market due to foreclosure or not. I mean, just by personal, choices, unload the things. All right. Uneducated Economist, I'll leave links down in the description. You guys let me know.